Hey folks, this is Brian. We got to play session 11 of Elderath last night. It is Kos, this 8th day of the week. It's week 4 of the month of Zar, the 5th month. Goblins, goblins, goblins. So we move to engage the goblins as they're coming up to meet us. Raymond's in the lead. Alvis is on one side, begins to fumble and loses like 3 rounds worth of actions. So he steps back and switches places with Alexander. Wes is in the back and he adjusts his magic plan because of range and area effects and stuff. 2 more goblins come up, a sergeant and an archer. Wes does get a special success on his sleep 10 spell, which put down the sergeant. The archer, the spearman with the goblin group engaging us, and one of the regular goblins. There's a whoosh and a light from the room behind us and lots of screams. Wes adjusts back to the doorways, preparing for any goblin to come out to fire magic at them. The screaming continues. Alvin recovers from his fumble, and he and Wes move to the room. The oil on the floor is on fire. The door's on fire. It's not open all the way. There is smoke collecting on the ceiling, but there aren't any goblins here. Wes casts projected light down the hallway and scans. He does notice that the wall to the south, which is his left, has larger stones than the wall to his right, which is the north. And we deal some discussion on that a little bit later. Alvis moves back into the melee. He's using a spear to do a 2-hex jab in between a couple of other guys. And then Wes moves to that intersection, kind of keeping situational awareness down both hallways. The spear goblin gets speared by Alvis, and he goes down. He's then killed the next round. The last goblin notices that he is the lone goblin in the hallway, and so he flees. Wes tries to follow him, gets down to the corner of that T intersection that the goblin turned down. His intent was to go around the corner, cast a 3-point shock bolt at him, assuming he can still see him. He's got that 50-foot beam of light, and the range of the spell is like 100 feet. But there is an opening in the hallway on the north wall that the goblin darts through before Wes can get his spell off. So he holds his spell and keep an eye on that opening in case the goblin comes back out with a bunch of people, a bunch of other goblins. While that's going on, the rest of the party rifles through all the goblin bodies. The only thing they find of interest is the sergeant's helmet, which has the eye in it. It's actually scratched into the helmet. And the spear goblin actually had a bill hook, which they thought was interesting. So we decided, okay, we need to just leave. So we start going back where we came. We get to the next T intersection, shine the beam of light down there. It lasts like 10 minutes. And that hallway goes on further than that. And then we go completely out of the goblin lair, that we're calling it now, into the surface of the swamp, and then go back to the moat house to the spider tower where we camp out. The next morning, we head back to that northeast tower entrance, and we're thinking from these hallways in the goblin lair area that there must be some other way the goblins are going up and down, unless maybe there's some kind of internal ecosystem down there, because they had not been going up and down through that we could tell the area that we did. So we're scanning around. We don't see anything that would indicate any kind of other entrance for the goblins to be moving through to get down into the under area. Excuse me. So we go back down. We did spike the door when we left, and it has not been messed with. So we go down to the secret door. This time we go west. And the hallway goes for a while, and then it turns north. So it's kind of paralleling what it did on the other side. And after we turn north, Alexander notices something's off about the west wall. So we search it, and Raymond finds, indeed, a secret door. It opens into a room. It's a large room, and there's got this large table, got 15 to 16 people at it. And at the head of the table is a skeletal figure. There are tapestries on the walls, but they're all well too eroded, and just to distinguish anything there. On the table in front of the skeleton are numerous plates, decanters, a candelabra, and everything is covered with cobwebs and dust. We go down there, and there is an iron chest on the ground, on the floor near the skeleton. Alexander, jumps down, picks the lock. They open it up, and there is a scroll on top of what must have been at one time a very nice piece of fabric. Wes goes down, checks out the scroll, see if he can recognize the symbology on the scroll, because it is sealed with a wax seal, but nothing, so he puts that away. They take the fabric out, and inside this chest, underneath this fabric and scroll, is a whole pile of cow chips. What? So either this was meant to be some kind of joke, or being disrespectful to, we're assuming, this guy who received it. Raymond is checking out the skeleton, and it starts to fall apart. He does find a signet ring, and sure enough, the symbol on the signet ring does match the seal on the scroll. So this was something he was sending out, it looks like. Alvis then goes and picks up a goblet off the table, and he starts to clean it off, and sure enough, it is gold, and it is bejeweled. It looks like this guy was about halfway through his meal, because some of the bones are nice and cleanly picked and off to one side, and all the rest are together, clumped with some kind of leathery substance, right? We decide to, Alvis, Wes, and Alexander start clearing off the table. Tindo's watching the far door, and Raymond's just kind of watching things. So we start clearing things off, sweep using, sleeve of my gambits kind of thing, sweep stuff, all the junk off, clean up all the plates and stuff. And this stuff is all gold, except for the pitcher. The pitcher is crystal. So we dump out the chest, and we start piling all the gold plateware inside the chest, and then gently place the crystal pitcher on top. And while we're doing that, Alvis notices a silver belt buckle in the skeletal remains, and it has a motif of cow horns. We push the chest under the table. Oh, he puts the buckle in the chest. Push the chest under the table for pick it up later. And then we head to the door. And that door leads into a room that's some kind of a sitting room. There's a couple of chairs, a low table, tapestries again on the walls. There's some rugs around, a settee, but it's been left alone for ages. So there's nothing there. And there are 3 doors out of this room. One to the south, one to the north, one to the west. We go to the south door, and it's a bedroom, similarly covered in dust and cobwebs. Nothing of interest. Does not look like it's been occupied. Check out the west room, west door, another bedroom, same thing, nothing of interest. Go to the north door, and there's another bedroom. This one, however, seems to have been occupied at one point, as there is travel bags, clothing, and it looks like it's been lived in at one point, many years ago. Again, covered cobwebs and dust. We do find in the clothing silver buttons, with this cow horn motif again. There's 10 of them. We gather those up. And we find a secret door on the east wall. We don't hear anything, so we go. It's the stairs going up, and we go up and go up and up. And Raymond notices as we're going up the stairs construction changes about halfway from these ancient large stones to just old stones that are smaller. But it ends with a trapdoor at the ceiling. We open it up, and it turns out that we are in that hallway, the first hallway that we went to in the walls of the submerged keep where the goblins ambushed us. So we're thinking, well, maybe there might be some more of these. We try, okay, can we hear a difference if we pound on the floor here than if we pound on the floor there? So we can, in the future, go through and see if there aren't any more secret trapdoors. So at that point, we go back down, get the chest, bring it up, go to the tower room, and find a corner, stuff it in there, cover it with debris. We still have plenty of time. So we go back down through all those rooms, through the dining room, through the secret door into the hallway, and we continue on north. This time, we're being very watchful for secret doors. What would be the outside, right out to the west, and then to the north if we come to a corner, that kind of thing. And just as the hallway going north turns east, as we kind of figured, making a square kind of thing, there is in fact a secret door on the west. So we listen, don't hear anything. Open up, and it is a large room. There's a door on the north that is open. There's this musty sort of smell throughout this room. And on the floor in the southwest corner is a pile of debris that's been piled up kind of like a large nest. We find some large feathers and some brownish furs. Alexander tells you this is not griffin feathers. So Wes goes over to the nest, is kind of watching out there. He's kind of checking it out, looking for stuff there, while everyone else heads towards the door to the north. There is another room, not as large, but still, significantly sized, but it is covered with bones. They appear to be goblin bones. And there are two doors, one to the north and one to the east. The east door is open. Alvis hears something coming his way, so he starts to get ready to, he drops back in the room, takes the door, starts ready to spike it. And while that's going on, whatever was coming towards him is rushing now. So he drops back, pulls his sword and shield. Alexander moves up with his sword and shield, make a united front. Tindo pulls back from all this happening, and Raymond gets his bow out. I mistrust the nest. I don't find anything. And then an owl bear bursts through the door. Now, this owl bear is big. It's 3 hexes big, which gives him 4 hexes of front hexes, 2 side hexes, and 3 rear hexes. But because his rear is up against the wall in the doorway, there's no way to get behind him. But he's huge, right? And he grabs Alexander, swipes him in one leg, swipes him in the other, picks him up, and bites his head. The head bite was not enough to kill him. It was enough to put him, unconscious, and he would die in 10 minutes or 5 minutes if not treated. But because of the 2 claw damages plus the bite, all that damage added together was enough to put him negative. So he's just flopping there, dead. So Alexander and Tindo are casting healing spells on Alexander and on Alvis as he gets damaged because the owlbear does attack him a couple of times. Wes is in the back trying to cast his sleep spell. Did a little metagaming here because for 1 magic point, I can do both sleep 5 and sleep 7. Obviously, sleep 7 is more effective. It does give me a -3% on my casting, but I still have a a buffer of 5% because we use a meditation rule to offset subtractions to spell casting. And most of that sucked up with his armor encumbrance and his weapons and stuff. But he still has 5%, to play with. So that 3% gets sucked up, no problems. He still has 65 with his sleep spell, but he misses his sleep spell. He's successful, but the owlbear makes his save, misses the sleep spell again. His fourth time is successful, and at that point, the owlbear does succumb to the sleep spell and falls unconscious. At that point, they were saying, kill it, kill it, kill it, falls down. But behind this owlbear, in the doorway, is this woman who's got a staff and is holding a potion. And she says, if you touch him, I will kill you all. At that, Raymond kind of backs up. Wes, puts his hands up, no problems here. And you kind of acknowledge, okay. And she says, why don't you come in through the front door like everybody else? Go back out and go through the door. So we kind of back out and go through the hallway. And down the hallway a little further on the north side is indeed a door. In fact, there's apparently a bell there. So we go in and we check out this room. And this room is dressed out like a store. There are various herbs and vials. There's a counter. It's got barred windows all around the counter kind of thing. These bars are spiked. Lots of shelves of potions and such. And there's a door back there. The woman comes around and comes through. And she starts complaining about us roughing up and, rousing her bear. You know how hard it is to calm down an owlbear? We're, being apologetic and explaining, the last thing we were expecting down here was her shop. She's an apothecary here. Oh, and if you're interested in the live plate, it's in the description. Obviously, lots of it tied up with combat because combat takes forever, but that's the way things go. All in all, a very interesting session. Finding the secret door and obviously all the gold. Wes could care less about the gold. He's got plenty of money. He's not interested in that sort of thing. But obviously, most of the other players are poor and are interested in getting money and that sort of thing. So that's good for them. The cow motif and the symbology on the ring and the scroll will be, we believe, of interest on dating what's been going on here and who this guy may have been. We're going to take that back to Raymond to Rufus and Burns to see how that plays out. Obviously, finding this woman down here just turns this whole idea of a goblin lair on his head on what's been going on here. So our intent is, to pick her brains on what's happening down here, because we're trying to find out what happened to the priest. We found the priest's stuff in the ghoul room, the torture chamber. That's kind of half a level or a level above this, but is over to the west some. So we're trying to kind of sort of piece together how these different fortifications over time have been pulled together, because obviously, it seems to Wes that this square we've been walking around is an older fortification, and somebody actually built walls around it over time to make the hallways we've been going through. But we're just looking for clues at this point. It was very interesting running into the owlbear, and the GM afterwards, it was talked to us that with how wimpy D&D owlbears are, he has sworn that his owlbears would not be so. And yeah, it wasn't. Happy game at